Mm, Perfect. So, welcome everyone to another episode of the Virtual Travel Party. In this case, we have here with us Flavia, who is going to talk to us about Senegal, the getaway to Africa. And I'm so excited because one of my dream destinations has always been to go to Senegal. And now the fact that I'm able to go virtually through what Flavia is going to share with us is just super fantastic. So just one sec again. Very, very good. So the people who are in Zoom, you can turn on your cameras. We want to be able to see you. We're going to have a Q&A at the end, and people who are also in our Instagram, you're more than welcome to submit your questions to the bottom so we can ask Flavia those questions at the end. You're more than welcome to use the chat feature, share your experience. If you connect with anything that she's sharing, more than welcome to put it out there and connect with us. Please, if you're in Zoom, make sure you mute yourself because we are recording this. But the replays for this entire presentation, they're going to be available in our YouTube channel right after this. So you have plenty of time to see that episode and the other 60 plus episodes that we have in our YouTube channel covering so many different countries with Latinos sharing their experiences in those countries. But we're here to spark your curiosity for travel and to have fun. So now let me introduce you, Flavia, Latina Traveler. So make sure you follow her on Instagram because she's gonna show you her whole life in Barcelona and beyond. She's gonna tell us again, Senegal, the getaway to Africa. So welcome and thank you so much, Flavia, for being here.
Hi, Vanessa. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited to talk to you guys about this trip that I did so many years ago now. So it'll be like a nice kind of refresher for me to kind of go back and talk to you guys about it as well. So I hope everyone is doing well today. So I actually went to Senegal back in December of 2013. I actually went for about a week. And I stayed until New Year's of that year. So till about the 2nd or 3rd of January of 2014. I was studying abroad in Paris at the time. So I have a cousin that lives there. So we decided to take a trip and we decided on Senegal. So I'm going to share my screen so that people on Zoom can see some photos that I have from that trip. I was able to find some, thankfully, and I'll try and describe them for the people that are on Instagram.
Mm-hmm. So before you get started, how easy it was to get from where you were all the way to Senegal? Because sometimes I know people mention, oh, traveling to Africa sometimes is so difficult, but share us your experience.
Sure. So, like I said, I was in Paris at the time, and at the time, US citizens did need visas, like an actual visa on your passport to be able to go to Senegal. So we had to go to the Senegalese embassy, get it a few weeks prior, and we actually also had to get a yellow fever vaccination. So I've had the yellow fever vaccination, and from the time I got it, it was supposed to be good for 10 years, but I've heard now that I think it may just be good forever. I'm not fully sure, but I did get it, and that was one of the requirements that I had to do to be able to go. And the visa they gave me was only good for 3 months. So it was like a normal tourist visa, so it was good for 90 days. But now I actually recently saw that US citizens no longer need visas to go to Senegal. So there was a whole region in that western part of Africa that US citizens needed visas, but I think at least for sure, Senegal, you do not anymore.
That's good to know because that's one of the things that makes it easier having the American passport, that you don't need to get visa to go to many different places.
Yes, definitely. Well, I mean, at the time I did need a visa, but now you don't anymore. I don't know what changed exactly, but you no longer need one if you have a US passport. So it was fairly simple. Once we had that, it was just getting there. One thing that actually really surprised me was how far Paris was from Dakar, because I thought that it was actually a lot closer. Like on the maps, it always looks so much closer. but then when we actually flew there, we actually flew Paris to Algiers and then Algiers to Dakar, and it was almost 8 hours, which is normally my trip from like New York to Lima. So I'm like, that's actually really far. We're only halfway, like not even halfway through Africa. So I'm like, okay. But yeah, so that actually was really interesting. Okay, so yeah, so some photos. I was able to find some photos from my trip that I when we went. For the people in Zoom, I'll try and describe that. I mean, for the people on Instagram, I'll try and describe them.
I will
Um,
project it. No worries. I will project
oh,
it. Yes,
okay.
yes, so they
Oh,
can
great,
see it.
great, great.
Mhm.
Okay, awesome. Okay, yeah. So this when we got to Dakar, we were there for about 3 or 4 days. We went to two different islands. We went to the Ile de Angor and the Ile de Gorée. So this is actually the island of Gorée, which is like slightly north of the city. Um, and so this is just me with the background. At the time, I used to wear glasses, so there'll be photos of me with glasses back then. And so this is like when we were actually arriving to the island. I loved how blue the water was. There was just so many, like, it was just very tropical in a way. But this island has like a really dark history in a way, because we actually went to actually I'll let you know in a second. So first, while we were walking through the island, we saw a lot of art, a lot of different things that the locals made to sell to tourists. So it was really nice. They would use like their local colors, and the patterns I learned depended on like what tribes you would come from. So it's like most women would wear would wear patterns, and it would they could vary depending on like what tribe or what part of the country that they may have come from, or like to kind of show their family heritage and lineage, which I thought was really
Oh,
cool.
so pretty.
Yeah, it was very, very colorful. So yeah, so this is what I was talking about. This is the House of Slaves, Les Maisons des Esclaves, where a lot of people that were enslaved were kept here in different little dungeons prior to being shipped to the Americas, whether it was like North America, South America, etc. So it was just, and if you actually see straight ahead where there's two people at a doorway, that door is called the door of no return, because once the people would go through that door, well, they just never came back to Africa or to Senegal. But it had these like walkways around, and actually since it was first used as pretty much a holding cell for enslaved people, it then was used as an administrative building, as a school, and as many other different things. So the Senegalese people themselves aren't sure if they want to hold so much of it as the house of slaves, or if they want to actually be more representative of all of these different uses that the building has had since then. Since for them, that was a very long time ago in their history. But from what I've read, a lot of African Americans that do go want to hear about that part of the story, the part where the slaves were held there, which makes sense, because that for them is the most important part. So I just found it interesting that for the Senegalese people themselves, it's like for them, the history is just so different. And the need to talk about certain things may vary depending on the person who's, I guess, visiting.
Mhm.
So then this is actually below those stairways that you can see, and to the left are all of like the different holding cells that were there. There was one for women, one for children, and on the walls you could see like people kind of like scraping on them, or just like I guess writing lines on them that would show, or to I guess try and remind themselves of how many days there were. I don't know if they purposely kept it this way, or if in kind of restorations to bring it back to that time period redid it. But it was interesting that like even though it had other uses afterwards, there were still all of these different markings on the walls.
How did you
And
feel going there? Because I will feel super emotional if I went there.
it was really heavy. Like there's like very few places I think I've been in the world where I just like you just like kind of feel it. I definitely really felt it, like where it's just like you could tell stuff happened here. Like it's just like this energy, like it's just this weird energy. I definitely really felt like heavy, like if that makes sense. But
Yes.
it's just like this heavy kind of feeling. Um And so this is a little closer up of that door of no return. And Nelson Mandela actually visited it at one point, and I know that also some of the previous U.S. presidents have also visited it. I can't remember right now which ones, but there were also some photos of the ones that visited, but I don't have those anymore. So from there, we actually went to lunch, and this is like a very typical Senegalese meal, which is fish with like kind of tomato sauce with onions and rice. And I know most of us are very used to eating like fish without scales or anything like that, but this literally had everything. Like I think you can even tell like there's the eye is still there. Like you can literally see everything. It was just all there, which was very, very interesting to eat because I wasn't so used to that. But yeah, it was, but it did taste very good. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
So you just have to like find it in your mouth and spit it out or take it out.
Pretty much, yeah. It's just very much like you eat with your hands and everything. So it was interesting.
At first glance, it looked to me like berenjenas, like eggplant.
Right? It kind of can. Yeah. I mean, I can't say that like visually it looks as appealing, but it did taste very good. Yeah. And then on the island, there's also this statue, which is called the Statue of Liberation, pretty much also going back to the time of having enslaved peoples. And you can see how like he has the chains on his arms and he kind of like ripped them off and everything. And they're just kind of moving towards like a new life. And then this is another picture of the island from like a different point of view. But in general, like the island is really pretty. It's small. There aren't too many cars on the island, and actually the other island that I'm going to show you next doesn't have any cars at all, so you really just have to walk around the whole island, which was kind of cool. But before that, when so I'm sure some people may have heard of this, but this is the African Renaissance monument, which is the biggest bronze sculpture in the continent of Africa. And actually I was reading up on it, and although it's supposed to be in celebration of like the liberties of the African people, it was actually created, or it actually went up during a presidency that the president himself was really corrupt and like did a lot of things that weren't that great, but he did this during his time like in power. So although for many other people it could be seen as like a really great symbol, I guess for a lot of Senegalese people they have like this kind of unsure kind of like attachment to it, like where it's supposed to be a good thing, but then it was made under not a good time. So it's just kind of like a little conflicting, but the statue is huge. Like when I stand next to it, I was like this little thing. it was really crazy.
So you have to kind of go really far to get the whole picture.
Yeah, because you can see all of these steps. Like there's like 5, 6 like rows of steps to get up there, and it was just like a lot. But it was very interesting. And then there's also walking a little bit more. There's this huge like statue, or kind of like the continent of Africa. I wouldn't. It's not a statue, but it's like a flat part of it. And it doesn't look that big here, but when you are standing there and looking at it, it is actually massive. It's like really huge. And this was one I hadn't heard of before actually going to Senegal. So this one we kind of just stumbled upon while we were walking from the bronze statue.
Is it easy to navigate the country? Because you're saying like you stumble upon it. That means you were walking, or?
We were walking. So in Senegal, they mainly speak French, and thankfully my cousin, she is fluent in French, and I speak a decent amount of French. So we were able to get around pretty easily. I'm not gonna lie, my cousin did plan the majority of this trip. So she was the one who kind of knew like the different things that we were going to and what we were gonna see and everything. So she already kind of had like a mapped out idea of like where everything was situated and where we were gonna be going to. So she kind of took me to some places, and yeah. But it was pretty simple to get around. I will say that in Dakar City, it did remind me a lot of Lima in a way, just because of like the chaos of like people getting onto combis, or I guess in DR there would be like wawas. like
Yes.
those little kind of buses. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they would get like really packed, and the same thing happened in Dakar. Like but they were like kind of little school buses, but not like the short buses, like a little bit bigger than that. And they were covered in or colored the colors of the Senegal flag, which is like red, yellow, and green. And so that was kind of really cool. So from the city center of Dakar, we went to the Ile d'Angor, which is the photo here. We had to take a boat to get to that one as well. And as I was mentioning before, this island actually there's no cars on it. Like there's no roads that you can drive on. It's a completely walkable island. So literally you just have to walk everywhere, which is great that it's not so big. But there's like a lot of little hotels and things like that, and people live on it as well. So it's a lot of people go to spend the day at the beach or go to restaurants and things like that. There's actually some celebrities at one point also had homes on this little island. But right now I can't remember which ones. We actually took a picture in front of one of those ex-celebrity homes.
Oh, now we know. That's a better place to find a celebrity than if you go to California, maybe.
Exactly. And also on this island, there were a lot of different like art that was created, that was being sold and everything like that. And I don't have a picture of it, but I do remember that after they would paint them, they would like lay them out on the ground to dry because the sun was just so strong. They would lay them out for like a few hours, they dry, and then they'd like put them up against this to start selling them pretty much.
Nice.
Yeah. And so this was the photo that we actually posted on the Instagram first. So this is actually found on the Ile d'Angor. And this used to be like a home structure that with time was deteriorated. And really around here, there's actually nothing there. There's just a whole bunch of rocks, this one little doorway, and then just more rocks. For some reason, on one half of the island, there's just not too much of anything. The other side has all of the restaurants, the people, the houses, and everything, but the side is like almost deserted.
How long do you recommend people spend in that island?
Oh, just a day.
Just a day? Okay.
I mean, unless you're going to go to the beach and do things like that, it would just be kind of like a day trip from Dakar. Yeah. And from Dakar, we actually headed south. We went to La Samone and Hamburg. And this was part of La Samone. So I wanted to kind of show this. I know a lot of people may have certain misconceptions of Africa and people, you know, living in huts and things like that, but I wanted to show their cars, it's just normal apartments and things like that. So it was just very, like I said, I feel like it reminded me a lot of Lima in a way. And we stayed in the apartment. You can't see it from here, but it would be like right on the left. Because I went outside and literally just took a photo of the street.
You were in like an Airbnb or someone that you knew, like their home?
Not somebody that we knew, and it wasn't an Airbnb either. My cousin, she found the place that we were staying in. I know it wasn't an Airbnb, but it was like somebody's home, and like we just rented a room. Yeah.
Maybe like a casa, the way they do it in Cuba, kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of like that. Kind of like a casa particular. Yeah, something like that. And then from there we went more towards like the beach area, which is more like Hamburg. And so there was like these little huts like with like restaurants would be in them, and then they literally have really great views of the beach. I took some pictures of like people kind of like walking around. Some people were carrying things and were laying things out to do laundry and things like that. But it was just really interesting to kind of see their different lifestyle. And yeah, so here there's some women that are carrying things. They had absolutely no trouble carrying these things on their head. I'm just like, I can barely carry a backpack.
It is an art to be able to do that.
Really,
because you need to have a lot of strength.
Oh yeah, for sure. But you can see the lady all the way on the right. She has that pattern. Like she has like a different pattern like dress. So they were really beautiful. So my cousin and I actually kind of snuck onto this resort because we were speaking Spanish. A lot of people thought that we were actually from Spain. And when we tried to explain that we were from Peru, they said that must be next to Spain.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Just because of the Spanish. But yeah, so we actually got onto this resort. Nobody thought that we weren't part of the resort. So I was like, okay. So we just kind of hung out by this nice infinity pool for a little while and then kind of went on our way.
So they didn't have like no bracelet to identify that you're a guest, nothing like that.
No,
right?
because it was like really kind of in the middle of nowhere. It was like all the way at the end of this, like, not like the end of the peninsula, kind of.
Oh.
Yeah. So we were walking on the beach and then I think we just wanted to use the restroom. And then I guess nobody really questioned that we were there. So we just hung out there for a little while.
Yes. And that's what, by the way, one of the reasons why I travel, because it's not just about going to other countries and meeting people and other cultures, but sharing my culture, where I come from, to those people who live there. Like you say, they didn't even know that Peru was in South America, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's a teachable moment both ways.
Yeah, definitely. We would tell people so many times, and I don't even know if they've possibly seen a globe to understand that it really was like on the other side of the world. But we did try to have them tell them that it's not next to Spain.
Yeah.
And from there was like this little kind of pathway, which it'll be in the next photo. But on the left of it, there were like these little kind of floating huts, but not exactly like they were on stilts. And people do live in those. So that was something different to see there. But where we were walking to was actually to a cemetery. So like the picture that I showed you is like more off to the left of this. And then it's just like this little island that they use as a little cemetery. And it was just like secluded, but it was nice to kind of like go and see it.
I've never seen a cemetery close to water, because usually like that's like prime real estate next to the water. So
right, yeah, and it's like this is a little island, so this is literally a little island, but it's used as a cemetery. Yeah. And then this is like closer to where we were staying. There were also these little boats and things like that. They would go out fishing. And they also have little restaurants there. So we stayed there, I think, for about 3 days and 2 nights. And we just kind of spent time at the beach, wandering around, things like that. But it was relaxing. One of the things I actually forgot to explain was getting from Dakar to La Somon. It was, we had to go to this, we decided to go, instead of taking like a regular taxi or a regular bus or anything like that, we went to a market. And at the market, we had to find the cars that were going to La Somon. And we just had to ask around to see who was going, when they were leaving, if they had space, how much it would cost, how long it would take, etc. And once we actually got into a car that was going in that direction, it was there was 3 rows, and I remember we sat in the 3rd row, and there was no air conditioning in the car, and there wasn't enough air that was really getting to me either. I remember falling asleep because of the heat. Like the heat was so strong, and it made me so tired. I would just pass out. And I think I passed out like 2 or 3 times on that trip. And it's like maybe 2 or 3 hours long. But it was just so hot that I just passed out.
Someone is asking, where is this place? That's La Somon City, right?
In Mbour. So Mbour. Yeah, it's like right on the coast of Senegal, kind of between Dakar and Gambia, which is like a country that's like right in the middle. And it's one of the sunsets that we saw there. And then the next day we went to like this park, which was like ecological park that you just kind of walk down a ramp, and then it leads to this where you can just kind of go see. It's kind of like the Everglades. It kind of reminded me of, because you could do like boat tours and things like that, or you could just kind of look around it. And then back to the beach. And this was an Parque Ecological, so an ecological, like kind of like a zoo, but they called it more like an ecological park. So there was parrots, there were other little animals like peacocks, ostriches, things like that. No, ostriches, no, I'm sorry, peacocks. And they actually were able, like I was able to hold one, but then for the next 2 days, you see how like the claws are just digging into my arm? I had like some scars for a couple of days.
Really?
They're really strong. Yeah, they're really strong. I'm smiling in this photo, but inside I was hurting. But it was cool. um, and then for some reason I always had this idea of taking a photo in like a sunset in Africa where it was just like kind of a tree with like the sun going down. And that's what I was trying to capture with this photo, but we were in a car, so we were moving and it wasn't really that clear. But
It looks great to me.
on
That
my end,
orangey sunset kind of thing.
yeah, exactly. So here we were just heading back to Dakar because then the next day we were flying out back to Paris. But yeah, that was my trip.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So any questions that you guys may have, definitely you can ask the questions in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask the question yourself. Let me see if we have questions here. Did you experience the nightlife?
So we went out twice. We went out, but it wasn't so much like the nightlife. We didn't go to nightclubs or anything. One of the nights was actually New Year's, so we went out in Dakar, but it wasn't so much to a place. It was just like outside because people were literally outside just drinking, dancing, listening to music, throwing off fireworks and everything like that. So we did that. And then one night we went out in in Hamburg. And it was just like part of like where we were staying. They were also just playing music and drinks and things like that. So it wasn't anything crazy.
Do they have any specialty drinks that they usually drink?
If they do, I'll be honest that I do not know what they are. I'm not sure what they are. But I'm sure that they probably have something that they prefer to drink over other things.
What was your favorite food? Or would you say like the rice with the fish was normally the meal that people will eat there?
So that's like a really typical meal. Yeah. So I would say that that definitely was. I felt like the fruit that we had there was also really fresh, which was great. But yeah, I would say that. I know it has a name, that dish, but it's escaping me right now. But yeah.
Any desserts? Because you know I love to eat, so desserts are always in the top of my mind.
I know. I honestly can't recall having a dessert while we were there. I think it was just like ice cream maybe, but we didn't have anything like crazy exotic or anything.
How did you feel navigating the country in general? Like it was just you and your friend, right?
Yeah, me and my cousin. It was fine. I actually didn't feel worried or anything. I know like before I went, a lot of people were like, "Why are you gonna go to Senegal? What's in Senegal? Like what?" And actually before going, I really didn't know much about Senegal either, but I wasn't opposed to going. I knew that it was there, that I would go, like if the opportunity came up. So we went, and definitely having my cousin who spoke fluent French definitely helped a lot, because that's mainly all we spoke with people there. So I actually didn't feel uncomfortable at all. It was really great.
Yes. What would be one advice that you would give people who want to go to Senegal?
Yeah, definitely have an idea of like what you're going to do, because although the country isn't so big, like I was talking about with getting around and stuff, like unless you have that transportation kind of already booked, or you're just kind of winging it, like it can be a little bit more, not like a little bit more tedious to just try and figure out where you're going, especially if you may not speak French. So just to have like an idea of like, like the city names and like where you're trying to go and what you're trying to see.
Mm-hmm. So you didn't necessarily find a lot of people who spoke English at all, which is fine, but
I mean, some people spoke some, but not as fluently as they would speak French. Yeah.
okay. Very, very good.
Yeah.
So can you repeat again, what were the cities that you went? So just people do like a recap kind of thing.
Yes. So Dakar, and from Dakar we went to two of the islands off the coast, which were Gorée and Ile de Angor, but there's so many other islands as well. And then we went to Les Amons and Mbeur, which is Mbour.
Mm-hmm. All right. So you went to many places in that country.
Yeah, I feel like I definitely saw a good amount of destinations there. So yeah.
How many days were you there?
We were there 7 days. We were there a whole week.
Okay. Would you say 7 days is a good amount, or do you feel like you needed more to see other parts that maybe you didn't get to?
So I actually would have loved to get to Gambia, which is like a country that Senegal borders. And I think if maybe we had another day or two, we would have been able to. But it just, I guess, preference. I wanted to go, but we just didn't have time.
Did you have to do any preparations beforehand, despite making sure that you got the yellow fever vaccine? Did you have to and the visa back then? Now, remember, you guys don't need it if you have an American passport. But was there any other thing that you prepare yourself before you went there?
No, aside from the yellow fever and the visa at the time, no, we didn't need anything else.
And where did you get the yellow fever? Because I know in the US it's very challenging to find an appointment to get it because they don't have a lot of them. So normally I hear people that they go to Europe, or they just go whenever they have a stopover in another country, they just get it in another country because it's just easier than getting it in the United States. So how did you get yours?
So I was in Paris at the time when I got it. And I went to one of like the centers there because at the time, since I was studying there, I had health insurance there. So although it didn't fully cover it, it did cover part of it, and I was able to just get it through my health insurance there at the time.
Oh, that's good. And like Ashley just shared in the chat here, she says so expensive. Yes, that's one of the things that I always hear. It's usually like over $500 or something like that.
Oh yeah, no, it's not that much at all. No.
So definitely, I mean, many countries in Africa require it because they don't want you to get sick,
Right.
and it's a way to prevent. And now with COVID, there are going to be a lot of countries that are going to require the COVID vaccine. So what do you think about that? Can you share a little bit about that? I know it's not related to Senegal, but
yeah, I mean, there are a lot of countries that are definitely going to require. I've heard talk about here in Europe, people possibly this new green passport possibly going around for people that have been vaccinated. Here, barely anybody's gotten vaccinated. Only people maybe over 85 or so, at least in Spain. I know the UK is getting vaccinated faster. But in Spain, it's going very slow, as I think a lot of other European countries are. So it's still just happening very slowly. Yeah.
wow.
And Latin America is also going very slow as well.
At least that's one of the things about living in the United States. Like we are privileged because I know like at least the government expects to have at least 70% of people vaccinated by July 4th. So hopefully that helps, and they can also help other countries so we can travel more freely and don't get sick and don't get other people sick, because that's the worst part. If you bring it to another country, it's like, whoa,
yeah.
So that's the same thing that the yellow fever does. It prevents you from getting super sick if you travel to one of those countries.
Right, definitely. Yeah.
Any questions that you guys have, please ask in the chat or here in Instagram. More than welcome. She is here to answer all of your questions about traveling to Senegal. Now, before we go off, you said that your cousin was able to book all of the transportation in advance, except for that day when you went to the market trying to find out how to get to the island.
No, we didn't have any of the transportation booked. We just only have flights to Dakar.
So did you find it easy to find transportation to move around? And did you use, for the most part, private transportation, or what did you use?
We mainly just used public public transportation for everything, like local buses, those local like shared taxi rides for long distance. And I don't think we used private transportation at all, actually.
Did you were you like team carry on? Because how were you logging like all
yeah, we only had a carry-on. Yeah, only a carry-on and a backpack because it was only for 7 days. So
yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so people, if you go there, make sure that you, to maximize your time and to move more easily, that you pack less, so you can experience the authentic Senegal.
Yeah, definitely. No, I mean, even though we didn't have all of that stuff booked, it was still, I think just having, just speaking French definitely helped a lot. It really facilitated finding our second accommodation once we got to Le Simon and once we got to Hamburg, and then also just getting from destination to destination.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, if anyone doesn't have any more questions, thank you so much, Flavia. I just want to share one little bit of info with you all. Let me just take this again. So just want to share that, Flavia, thank you so much. I know you are doing this from the kindness of your heart, sharing your experience with everyone that's here. And I'm grateful for that, for saying yes. Make sure you guys connect with us in our Instagram and in our Facebook. Our Facebook group has a whole vibe. You can ask any questions about any of your upcoming travels. And our Instagram, make sure you tag us in your pictures, guys, so we can feature you in our pages. Also, if you want to, don't make a donation to us and contribute so we can bring you more of these kind of events, make sure to go to paypal.me / Latino World Travelers, or simply purchase from our store. Our merch is really cute and it's really, really good quality, and you will really, really love it. Now, we have upcoming virtual travel parties. We have June 3rd, we have Chile. Then we have in July, we have Panama, right after our July 4th weekend. Then we have in August, El Salvador. And in September, we have Indonesia. So make sure you mark your calendars. Normally, the first Thursday of every month, we host a different virtual travel party. Our goal is to have all 193 UN countries represented by a different Latino. So every month, we're going to bring to you a different country with a different Latino. And we already have over 60 episodes in our YouTube channel. So make sure you check them out. Un millón de gracias to everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Looking forward to seeing you again next month. And we have a lot of events also coming up. So definitely make sure you join us in those events. We have a photography and shopping event coming up on the 16th. And then we have also a trip to West Virginia. So as you know, we want to visit all of the states and we want to come meet you as well. So we're going to host first a meetup in DC, Washington, DC, and a meetup in Baltimore. But we're also hosting a weekend trip during Memorial Weekend to go to West Virginia. So if your goal is to visit all of the states in the United States, join us to come to West Virginia on the weekend of Memorial Weekend if you're not doing anything yet. That will be my state number 36. It's crazy. I'm almost there. After that one, I'm just gonna do 14 more to say that I've slept and eaten in every single state in the United States. And yes, next month we have a lot more activities coming up. We're gonna have a sushi making class because we want to make sure we expose you to the world, even though we cannot travel extensively yet. But we want to make sure that we do it at least virtually. And we're just going to have little meetups here and there. Last weekend, we just went hiking with our people from New York and New Jersey and Connecticut. So we want to move from state to state and come visit you in different states. We're planning to do a meetup in Oregon really soon, another one in Colorado, Texas, possibly California as well. So if you live in any of those states, definitely let us know so we can come and visit you. We really, really want to meet all of you guys, at least sometime this year, little by little, as the world opens up. So thank you so much, Flavia, again, for giving us so much info about Senegal. I'm really looking forward to going there. And I took so many notes, like, I'm not even joking. Like, when we have BTPs, I'm here fiending, taking all the notes that I can. But if you didn't get to catch everything that she said, go to our YouTube channel and make sure you tune in to watch this and the many other episodes that we've had previously. So thank you so much, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.